Today on the show I have Danyon. Danyon has navigated a very challenging path. He was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 12 after being misunderstood and labelled as a naughty kid. His journey through life has been anything but easy, from significant family violence and bouncing around foster homes, children's camps and boarding schools, to spending years in treatment centres like Odyssey House and St Mark's. As a youth and as an adult, he faced time in prison and has experienced the harsh realities of the system firsthand. Despite these adversities, he's remained resilient and determined and is currently in a chefing apprenticeship and has recently got engaged to the love of his life. In this episode, we're going deep into his history of navigating ADHD and trauma within the system, exploring the lessons he has learned along the way. So welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, brother.
It's all right, man. It's good to have you here. I wondered if we could start, maybe if you could share with everyone just a bit about yourself and what's brought you here to chat with us today.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, so my name's Danyon, originally from Christchurch. I think what's brought me to this is I just love normalising conversation, especially with us as men. I think it's really important.
Yep.
Far too many are gone too soon with the lack of possible conversation or feeling comfortable to have just even a shallow conversation, let alone a deep one. So I really love your content and I love what you're doing.
Thanks,
I love
man.
what you stand for and the journey that you've come from. And I've gone through a lot, but I'm grateful for that. A lot of the stuff that I've done in the past, whether it's bad or good, it doesn't necessarily define my outcome today.
That's right.
I try to stay in the present moment, and I'm definitely grateful for what I have in this life now. So yeah.
Cool. No, fair enough, Ben. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And you say like it doesn't define kind of where you are now, but it contributes so heavily in such a beautiful way that you've got that perspective and that outlook from handling and going through that stuff. I mean, you wouldn't wish it on anyone, but you've got so much to contribute as well from, to help others. And that's obviously what the mission you're on as well. So would you be able to tell me a bit about what I've got a brief overview from just our chat so far, but just a bit about what life was like for you when you were growing up?
Yeah, for sure, man. So it was definitely a struggle from a very young age. I was being a ginger, I was a very fiery young. We'll start with that.
Yeah.
Being a ginger, I was a very fiery young boy, full of energy, very tantrumy, there was a lot of tantrums, there was a lot of throwing my toys out of the cot, chucking rocks through windows, a lot of aggression and stuff like that. Being in school, it was never for me. I never felt like I was a part of, you'd be in a classroom full of 30 kids or whatever, and I just did not feel like I belonged there. I would do disruptive behaviour to exit myself out of there. In primary, I was, palmed off to the caretaker. The caretaker's wife and him owned a lolly company, so I'd be given a whole bag of lollies. So like a lot of the kids would see me out the window where they're sitting in school and I'm out there with a big bag of lollies, like with the caretaker. So it separated me from, and the school allowed this to happen.
So you were in a school environment and you're supposed to be learning, is that right? But instead they put you with the caretaker for the day. Yeah, well,
it was quite a regular thing. Yeah,
right.
it was quite a common thing.
Was it used as a way of getting you out of class because you're disruptive?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, 100%.
And did you was there still a focus on your learning outcomes at all?
Yeah, to some degree. Don't get me wrong, I never bagged my primary school that I went to. There's a lot of supportive teachers there, but I think at the end of the day, like when you've got one disruptive, kid, i.e. being myself, they had to kind of almost eliminate that from, I guess, affecting the other kids' education and stuff like that. And it was very odd and weird when I look back at it now, but at the same time, I was kind of, I was in school here and there, but because I was so disruptive and stuff like that, they kind of put up with it for so long and then kind of, running out of options, running out of meetings, they get sick of having meetings with my mum and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he still has to be here, but where are we going to have him so that so he's not disrupting the rest of the class.
Yeah, and I loved being with the caretaker and going around sweeping up leaves and stuff like that. That's what I
enjoyed
to do. Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. It was rewarding.
Isn't it funny that it just shows the system nowadays. I think it's important that we obviously go through the school curriculum so that we can function in society. To learn English and maths and ultimately things like science and that. It's quite important, but it just shows you how we're all so different. That system that isn't for everyone. And you were still finding reward, and you were still finding fulfillment and everything in a completely, in a just a different environment. And I remember my mum saying that there was in other countries and things, and probably even New Zealand, there's classrooms that operate out in the forest, and they take the kids in smaller groups and they go and do learning in that way. And it's for some kids that would just be so much more beneficial as actually getting stuck into physical stuff rather than the classroom environment. Because, I was the same. Whenever I remember having to talk to an adult at primary school, I just remember the look of disappointment and failure, I have failed, and it wasn't until I talked to a psychologist friend of mine recently that she said to me, that's probably what you were expecting every time that you dealt with an adult was that. And it was I was just I know that I'm, and because they saw me as, right, you're smart enough to do the work, but you're just not doing it. They go stand in the corner. You lose your lunch breaks, you lose your arts and crafts. And I've said this before on different episodes, but it's that's how they punished me, was sit on the office steps at lunchtime. Yeah. The whole lunch hour. And with ADHD, I'm undiagnosed at that point. How the hell do you sit on the office steps all lunch break, or you're watching everyone else play? Yeah. Yeah. It's just, So after the caretaker, was your primary school? Yeah. So after primary school, how did things go?
So it continued to be the same kind of common theme. Obviously not the caretaker as I grew up older, but it was like you say, I was excluded from the classrooms, mentors would come in. And that's what I mean. I'd never completely bag the education system that I went through. They tried their best. There was a lot of really awesome teachers, especially in high school. One stands out quite heavily, but I ended up getting taken out at intermediate. Can't really, can't pinpoint the age, but intermediate age. I ended up going into a place called Mackenzie Residential School, which is a naughty boys boarding school where a whole bunch of boys from all around New Zealand get put into this school. And it was pretty. But it's funny because my education and IQ levels excelled in that setting, because it was only 6 or 7 boys per teacher. It made a massive impact. Yeah,
that sounds like a good group size to me. Manageable for the teacher. I think that's another aspect of it too. In the school system, especially when you're young, a class of 30 for one person, they just don't even have the time to address. You think about their time and attention being dedicated to one particular student for longer than others. It's everyone misses out, and for the group that's compliant, they can generally move them as a group, whereas they don't have the energy to give to others. And with 6 students, you got more time per student.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And that for me was a big factor of kind of learning at that point in my life, as I was actually kind of open to it, because I was able to listen to the teacher rather than feel like I was in a room full of people that, kind of didn't even like me because I was so different. And as like yourself, it was that undiagnosed ADHD stuff, as I was, my head was bouncing around at 100 miles an hour, and it was hard to kind of, concentrate and listen to what the teacher's saying. But when it kind of is such a small classroom, it enhances me to be able to actually be open to listening to what they're saying.
That's the other thing too that you highlighted there, which is really important, is the group dynamic. You're part of a group of 30. There's that almost pack mentality on a bigger scale, that if you're the group consensus is that you're the disruptive kid, and then it further amplifies that when the group distances itself from you, if that's what happened. If you've got a group of 6, everyone's got not just the teacher that has more attention on everyone, it's everyone has more attention on each other.
Yes, yeah.
When you got 30 students, it's like you're all dealing with 30 of each other. And that's a different aspect. And it's like if 10 of those people make a decision, the rest of the group wants to kind of go with that decision too. You know? So yeah, it would, if you feel like you're being picked on by the teacher, or you feel like you're not getting the attention you need from the teacher, and the students are also turning their back, that's rough. Like, that would be rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember having my desk at the whiteboard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Hard against the wall.
Yeah.
There was just no chance I could disrupt anyone because I have to turn right around to do it, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was intermediate. And so then you went to Mackenzie.
Yeah, so went to Mackenzie for a year, 12 months. There was a lot in that. So, like, when you misbehave, you'd get put into, like, a timeout room, which is locked, like a cell.
So like the pound.
Yep. But there's no toilet. There's nothing. So if you needed to go toilet and stuff, you could only imagine what would happen.
And people would.
Oh, 100%, me included. It was not pretty, man, and it was. Because I was only 12 at that point, bro. You know what I mean? I was young. I was a young, angry little boy. With stuff, going on externally as well. I really almost felt like, I was being created as a monster to some degree. But in saying that, it definitely helped education-wise. But it was sad when I look back at it. There's a lot of hurt young boys, including myself in there, bro. And it was because it's a live-in boarding school situation. It really just, for me, now I don't look at it like this, but at that time it was like, this is my worth. I'm not, I'm not like the other kids. I was right in primary school, bro. You know what I mean? I'm not going home to
it confirms.
It just reconfirmed that.
Or reinforces.
Reinforces, bro. Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah, for sure.
You feel like an outcast, but you've not just been, distanced from the you would call it your, normal society. It's like you've been actually isolated from parents and things as well.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
It's kind of like it would feel like prison to a degree.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, it was the gateway, bro. It was the gateway to prison, And the thing is, all credit to my parents and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, they did the best that they could. I was, I'd admit that I was uncontrollably, I was pretty fucking, out of control. I was an out of control kid. I fully admit that with all my conviction. But obviously these schools and to go on and later in life, the older I got, was the foster homes and the health camps and all that type of stuff. Being bounced around, it created quite a toxic core belief that I had in my head that I wasn't worthy, I didn't belong in normal society. So I started to act in a way where it was, a fuck you system and fuck everyone, really. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, it's I at some point I will study more on this stuff, but I'd love to learn more about that. It must be criminal psychology. How when you start to, if you're not given the support you need when you're young, and you start to see yourself that way, and it becomes this kind of like, I need to get what I want out of this. I need to be able to survive, and everyone is against me, so why would I comply with the rules now? Like the rules in society, they're there for everyone else. I'm being treated worse than everyone else, so it's like, yeah. Did it feel like that at all? Did you feel like you were completely separated from society, or did you feel
100%? No, for sure, bro. And I think obviously with the other kids in those boarding schools and foster homes and stuff, we all felt like that. We were all almost proud of being misfits, being proud of being the scum of society or whatever. Because that's how we felt. So obviously that just reinforced, like, let's just cause a fucking riot. Let's just cause chaos. And that's exactly what we did. You know?
Can see how gang culture develops.
100%, definitely, for sure. And behind all of that, and I'm sure you know this, is there's beautiful human beings, bro. You know what I mean? It's just where, we are what we're around and what we gravitate towards as a way of survival, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I saw a lot of people in prison that I'm like, man, you just hearing some of these stories were heartbreaking, because the dude who is the loudest in the unit, but then you hear on one of the courses that when he was 5, he had to find his way home on his own from school because his mum was cracked out, couldn't pick him up. and just at 5 years old having no food, no shoes, walking rural to find your own way home, like just heartbreaking.
Yeah, man.
You know, and knowing that little kid on his own, was out on his own. He wasn't an evil child by any means. You know, he's just doing his best to survive, you know, and didn't ask to be put in that position.
100%.
Yeah. So you received your ADHD diagnosis at 12?
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
And so how did that change your life? We're talking, that's intermediate age effectively.
Yeah.
Having that diagnosis and the things that came from it, did that change your life both at school or schooling equivalent and in the rest of your life as well?
Oh, it changed my life fucking significantly, bro, good and bad, you know. Obviously medication came with the diagnosis. The older I got, especially in high school, I realized that the medication was worth money.
Oh, you're true.
You know, and I stopped taking it and putting it under my tongue at the sick bay and drying it out and selling it at high school. Right. And then that entered into, you know, selling it to not high school kids, and that really introduced me into quite a dark undercurrent at high school. You know, it was pretty full on, because you know, I'm sure you'd know what Ritalin, you know, what gravitates towards that drug is. It's not, you know, it's not a positive outcome. So yeah, but then in saying that, when I did take Ritalin and stuff like that, it was a very similar effective to what methamphetamine made me feel, because you're like, even when I was using meth and stuff like that, it would definitely give me the fried stay awake, not eat and stuff. But I was thinking like
functional.
I was thinking like I've never thought, you know, very similar to the way that Ritalin made me feel, bro. I was able to actually focus. Because for a long, you know, obviously from being in school from 5 to 12, I was not focusing, bro. My head was all over the bloody show, you know. Yeah. So there's definitely pros and cons from it all. It was kind of, you know, these days for me, I don't try and look too much at the diagnosis of things, because, you know, in regards to I've been diagnosed with all sorts of things over the years through, you know, treatment and in and out of, you know, the shrinks offices and all the rest of it. But it's you know, it doesn't define me, but at the same time, it gave me clarity, and it made me realize and understand myself a lot more, bro, you know? Yeah.
So I was recently diagnosed, maybe late last year, and then being given the medication, I'm like, how it makes me feel. I'm just like, mate, that $20 per pill's not even worth it. There's no fucking way. I need that shit. I need it.
You know, for sure.
The way that it would never be worth it for me to sell now. However, if I got it when I was younger, I could almost guarantee I would have sold it. And I'm surprised too that it wasn't a hurdle for me, because most of my convictions are for sale of medicines. So I'm just like, you know, but it's honestly, I can see where the lure is. I mean, I remember talking to a mate who is prescribed it before I got it. And he had sold his previously for $20 a tablet for a 20 meg.
$1 a meg. That was the same for me.
And so after being put on it, I did all my research on what it actually is, and it's actually chemically, it's very similar to cocaine. In its chemical structure, it's very, very similar. And the dosage obviously is a lot less than something like a recreational dose of meth or amphetamine, because the other thing people are prescribed is that dextroamphetamine, which is D-amphetamine. So without getting too deep into chemical stuff, some drugs are they're like, you can get mirror images of them. So MDMA, for example, is always, we're going to go real technical here, MDMA is always racemic. So it's got 50-50 split of both enantiomers, which is like a mirror image of each other. With D-methamphetamine, it's active in your brain. L-methamphetamine's not, it's just a nasal decongestant. So D-amphetamine, they prescribe for ADHD as well. But the whole thing is that a recreational dose is like 20 times what a therapeutic dose is. So and a therapeutic dose is like, we would refer to that as like a microdose. If it was LSD or something like that. You know how people talk about microdosing mushrooms or microdosing LSD. Well, if you microdose amphetamine, that's when you get a therapeutic dose for ADHD. And all it really does, from my understanding, is it raises the level of dopamine in your brain just enough for you to start not seeking it everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you know what it's like when you're unmedicated on ADHD, you're just looking for something to get satisfaction from all the time. And you don't know that you're doing that, but it's that instant gratification on steroids all the time. You know, you're just like, I'm bored with this now. I need something else to get some kind of hit from. And I think what I found, one of the big things I found from being on the medication is that I just don't feel the need to constantly change tasks or end conversations or start new ones or these kind of things, because I actually do feel satisfied in what I'm doing, and I'm able to sit for longer and I'm able to listen for longer and all that, you know. But that was a big distinction for me, especially when I got on it, was just being on it was the difference between a recreational dose of stimulants and a therapeutic dose, because I'm sure, as we're about to go into, at some point in your life after being on and off Ritalin, you were self-medicating with other things.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And that's our way of often, like you said to me, you know, before this conversation about one particular thing, it was like, you feel focus, like you just feel the most insane focus from things that are, you know, you're taking way too much.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And for other people, they might feel scattered. You know, like that. They don't feel that same calm, that sense of calm, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned being bounced around different foster homes and treatment centres. So I'm assuming, was that during your teen years?
Yeah, more so. Like my first encounter with drug and alcohol therapy was in 2012. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. How old were you at that time?
18. Yeah.
At 18.
Yeah.
Right. And prior to that, you had already taken recreational substances and that, aside from Ritalin.
Yeah.
Obviously, what drugs had you been involved with?
So from about 13 to 14, probably more 14, 15, was the alcohol, the cannabis, that type of stuff. It was easily available. It was, you know, a lot of Kiwi kids can relate to that. It was everywhere.
Yep.
But even like in high school and that, with the whole Ritalin buzz, I was swapping Ritalin for morphine for different, you know, drugs. So I was experimenting at a very young age. I guess the more I kind of grew up, I, you know, was introduced to different drugs and eventually ended up hooked on to meth.
Yep.
And then obviously that led me to you know, to many kind of dark situations.
It comes with its own lifestyle.
100%, you know, it was crazy, but for me it was on and off, because I've been going to therapy on and off, like rehabs from 18 to, you know, so like I've been you know, going in and out kind of. So I've been getting clean and then relapsing and then going back to that world and then getting clean, you know what I mean? It's been a bit of a roller coaster, bro. So how do you
think life would have been had you not been in and out of rehabs? Like if it had say you hadn't, I mean, what got you into rehab in the first place? Prison, right.
Yeah.
And so had you not gone to prison and say you'd avoided any legal issues like that where you were kind of forced on that track, how do you think your life would have gone?
I don't think I'd be talking to you right now, bro, to be 100% honest with you. I was especially before going into prison, I was really, you know, there's already been a couple of attempts and stuff.
Right.
You know, I just wasn't feeling like I could keep going the way I was going. It was not good for anyone, or obviously myself, but it was just, I guess the beautiful story of it is my mum went into treatment. So when I was in jail, my mum was in the Bridge program here in Christchurch. And that is kind of how I realised that, you know, you can actually, there is a thing called recovery and rehab and all of this type of stuff, because I never knew that was even possible, bro. I didn't know. You know, you kind of flick on a movie and you watch these guys like in AA meetings and stuff like that. You think, you know, what the fuck is this?
You don't think about how they got there or anything, do you?
I thought it was a movie based thing, bro. You know, I didn't even realize it was a reality. It's here, right? You know, around the corner type shit. Like,
until you're there and you're like, whoa, I'm like in this place now.
You're holding hands with all these fucking randoms, you know, saying these weird things that were just not, they were unnatural to me. And it was fucking weird being 18 in a room full of, you know, people that, you know, a story, telling their stories, and it's like, wow, holy shit! Like, it's a lot to take in, man. At that age, you know,
there's a lot of wisdom in those rooms too, eh? Like, you know, and maybe even in people that don't know they have it yet.
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
Like that lived experience we're talking about. Like sometimes you're not even at the point where you've recognised how much you've faced.
No,
you know?
it's a powerful place, and it's definitely something I'm always going to be grateful for. I'm not a part of those types of meetings and stuff anymore, but it's definitely built a foundation for me, you know, 100%. And and I think, you know, going back to the prison point, you know, I was in the youth unit of the Christchurch men's prison, and obviously there was a lot of hurt and a lot of, you know, there was just a lot of pain, but there was also a lot of really awesome brothers that I met. But the really sad thing, bro, is that a lot of these brothers that I was in there with were the brothers that I was in foster homes, that I was in boarding schools, that I was in, you know, these systematic homes. They ended up in there too, and some of them, unfortunately, you know, haven't survived and aren't here, and some of them are doing massive lags now, you know. So it's you know, it's heartbreaking, bro, because a lot of those brothers are really amazing humans. They just didn't believe it themselves, bro. And yes,
it's sad, eh?
Yeah, it is, bro. It really is.
What is it that you think they needed?
I think there's a lot that they probably needed, but I think first and foremost it was that little message internally to get them thinking. Because I guess for me, bro, like the message that I had was that I'm feeling like shit. I hate my life. I'm in prison. What the hell am I going to do about it? No one's going to come and save me. And if people are going to try and save me and I'm not ready, then they're wasting their time, basically. And a lot of people did that. So I think what they need is to believe in themselves. It's, you know, for me, that's, you know, I've had people, and, you know, I'll be forever grateful, you know, putting money, like giving me money to get, you know, doing all sorts of amazing things to try and get me well. But, you know, I've let them down, unfortunately. And I'm, you know, I truly do apologize nowadays. But at the same time, I've now realized that there's no amount of money, no amount of people, no amount of, you know, like I had to make that decision and actively start to action the shit that I'm talking, because I'm a good talker, as you know. I can say ice to a fucking Eskimo, bro. But at the end of the day, I had to start fucking moving my feet with my words rather than, you know, spin some yarns and, you know, and that,
take
that
action,
for me, So I guess that, you know, coming back to that question of the bros in prison and how what they need is they need to start believing in themselves. And you know, I think the most important thing is exiting from those people that they're surrounded in, because for me that was the only way I've got to where I'm at today, bro. Is walking away from the, you know, the people that I thought were, you know, my lifelong you know, family, you know, but unfortunately, you know, you can't get, like, for me there's a big reason of why I don't live here in Christchurch anymore as well, you know. And
I can imagine.
So it's just, you can't get well in a place that you were so sick. And if that makes sense, or for me anyway, that's my story, you know.
You're not alone. I know, like when I went to the drug and alcohol course that I did recently or early in this year, I realised how tough it was for alcoholics, for the reason that they see their poison everywhere. Everywhere. Like you walk into the supermarket, you almost have to walk past the bottle shop section.
It's the entrance, bro.
It's the entrance all the time, you know. And so they have to drive past liquor stores. And when you think about how, you know, it's obviously socially reinforced, alcohol is just so encouraged. You know, it's socially encouraged. You know, you on Friday after work or just whenever, I realised that, like, to get away from that would be so hard. But then when you think about, like, prison versus rehabilitation in the community, one of the topics that was talked about often at the AOD course was that the value of doing rehab in the community is so high because you're actually in the environment that's triggering you. Whereas if you're removed from that environment, you're in prison, you develop a whole lot of new associations with that environment, and it becomes a clean environment to a degree. You know, we all know it's not, but it's cleaner. You don't have the same options to get substances. You don't have the same friends reinforcing the habits and all that kind of stuff. You don't have the same triggers driving down the road, seeing places where you scored or whatever, you know. But when you come out, then you just suddenly back in this place where your brain's like, it's like not having sugar for a month, and then suddenly you have it and you're like, oh, you eat the whole pack of Tim Tams.
Bro, yeah.
It's you're out in society again, and then you're like, oh, I catch up with him, and then you get a dopamine hit from catching up with him because he leads to the bag.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I haven't felt this. I haven't felt this in ages.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Fuck, should we? And he's like, bro, do you want to? And you're like, okay, yep. And then before you know it, you're just back where you were.
That's exactly how it's happened, bro. Yeah.
And that's those associations that are so hard to break, and that's why that rehab in the community aspect is so crucial.
Yeah.
To get right. But further to what you were saying before about the dudes that were in there and that, working out what it was they needed, just like you at school and everything else, if your environment is reinforcing to you that you are a problem, and you don't have, you can't underestimate the impact that just one person saying the right thing to you at the right time would have on your whole trajectory, because you'd remember that. You remember, if we go back over our lives, you remember the times that people believed in you. You remember the times people said little things that actually fuck. I remember the last thing my granddad said to me in terms of giving me advice, and I've lived my life by that. It's because it was positive and it's worked. And I think that what you say about them believing in themselves is so crucial. And it's like, maybe if they had the right person say the right thing to them at some point, they could have carried that through, and it could have just been that, when you've got the angel and the devil on your shoulder, could have just been that little bit louder voice, that meant that they took option B rather than option A.
Yeah, brother.
Even if they took option B 2 times more times than they were, it could have just ended up, you change if you start walking on a line and you change just by 1 degree, after 5 Ks, you're in a completely different place, and it's just those little moments often have big impacts, eh?
Yeah, man, definitely. Yeah.
Briefly going back to what we're talking about with the foster homes and treatment centres and things, how do you feel that your ADHD impacted life over that time?
Yeah, it definitely had a lot to do with it, and it made a lot more sense to me once the diagnosis happened. I was still, the naughty kid. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There wasn't. Obviously, I'd take the medication and be a bit sedated as such, you know what I mean?
It
definitely
kind of chills you out.
It quietened me down a little bit. But obviously, when I stopped, taking it and selling it and stuff like that, it was a vicious cycle. But I think for me, it just made a lot more sense around my attention span and why I couldn't, listen to a teacher, and why I couldn't, write. It gave me a lot of clarity of, okay, there's actually something fucking wrong with me. I'm not just this naughty kid that I've been told that I am. And
so you understood yourself a bit better.
100%, definitely.
Do you feel that was a positive thing for you in terms of do you feel it was positive?
Yeah, I definitely think it was positive. Obviously, it came with some negatives, but the clarity of that. But then at the same time, obviously growing up, especially now in the present, looking back at it, the diagnosis isn't me.
No.
It's a part of me, and it's a part of my character, it's a part of my identity, but it's not, all of me, if that makes sense,
I feel like there needs to be a almost mandatory counselling for at least a couple of sessions with someone who gets diagnosed with anything.
100%.
And I don't mean mandatory forced kicking and screaming, but that they're available, that it's there. And I know it is. Everyone's actually entitled to 5 free counselling sessions a year through your GP, which is really cool. Not a lot of people know about that. But if you need it kind of explained to you that it's not you.
Yes,
but because there's 2 aspects to it. One is that you can use it as a positive, and you can say to yourself, okay, well, this is an explanation for why I think differently to other people, and that can help you realize that you're not, you're not. There's not something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But then you can also take it as there is something wrong with me, and you could be like, well, I'm going to now take this on as part of my identity and use it to justify. Well, not justify, but be like, what's the point? This is me. This is how I am. What is it? Almost not a cop out, but the people that will have something wrong in terms of a disorder, some kind of disorder or diagnosis, and almost hypochondriac, where it's like, I can't do that because I'm this. It's like, bro, you're not even trying. you're just saying that you're that so that you don't have to take accountability for your actions.
100%.
Plenty of people would be like, oh yeah, that's just my ADHD, and you'd say, well, nah bro, that's your fucking antisocial behavior. You can still choose what you want to do in that situation. You're choosing not to do it. And I think like it's without the difference between going one way or the other could just simply be understanding it better. And I guess you're older now that you can understand that it doesn't define you. But it was actually a positive for you to have it when it was younger, for you to find that out. It was like, okay, well, this explains things, It's some guidance around it, I think, would be important. And I'm sure in the health system now, I mean, I got diagnosed as an adult, so you're kind of, here's some resources, go look it up, But as a kid, I think that they're a bit more nowadays. They're probably a bit more like, maybe it would be a good idea for him to talk to a professional. And also, you have to see a psychologist, don't you, to get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so at that point, that psych should be explaining to kids about it.
Oh, 100%. And they probably did try and explain it to me. But I wasn't fucking listening to any of it, It was just, give me the medication, blah, blah, blah. Like it wasn't, obviously, I wasn't really, taking it all in as such. Yeah. Can you remember like one or two even significant lessons that you learnt while you're in foster care and treatment centres that have stayed with you to this day? I don't know if we... I definitely can, brother. I think the big one with the treatment centres was that I'm glad that I did all this when I was younger, bro, because I've met a lot of brothers out there that, are a lot older than I am, and it really gave me a reflection. It was like a mirror. If I continue to go down this path, it was probably one of the most powerful experiences. A few different situations, but there was a big message for me, bro. Like there's like it's a hard road to keep up. Using and lying and being in that world, like it's sometimes it seems like that could be the easier option to go back down that path, but it's actually hard to keep up with your own bullshit. And
it's easy to get there, hard to maintain.
And remember your own lies and spin all this bullshit to your family and your loved ones, and they know you're fucked. A lot of the time they're like, fuck, he's lost weight, he's fucking yapping, and he's fucking sleep talking and paralysis, and because it got really ugly for me in my last days, of being in that rock bottom place. It got really fucked up, bro. It was not pretty. But I think the biggest thing out of the treatment centres, bro, is realising that like if you want to keep going, like there's it's a very lonely and sad outcome, and
keep going into
addiction and that way of life. It's a very there's brothers that I met that are 60s, 70s that have no family, that have nothing, they've lost from their choices and decisions, and they're openly and now they're deciding at that age to turn their life around, which is wicked, but it's a lot of shit to unpack it, you know what I mean? So
that's again like what we spoke about, identity, changing your identity at that age it's the whole teaching an old dog new tricks comes from that whole, the older we are, the harder it is to make significant changes, especially around who we are. And if your whole life you've been using substances to find achievement or fulfillment, I always use the analogy of like putting cheat codes in for substances in games. So like you're playing Grand Theft Auto, and it's like you can put cheat codes in, right? But suddenly you can't get any achievements anymore. But you can get like fucking 5 stars. You can get like all the weapons, everything. You have a lot of fun in the moment, but then really quickly you get sick of it. You get bored, and it's about what can I do now? And you lose all the sense of purpose in the game. And I feel like that's what drugs are like. You are basically tricking your brain into feeling something that it should feel naturally. You should be doing something to feel that way, but you are choosing to take a substance which puts a cheat code in, and it basically says, cool, I'm going to feel empathy. I'm going to feel love for these people around me. And then you're like, oh, actually I'm in a kitchen at 5 a.m. with all these randoms. I don't even know who they are. And I don't know how I had these conversations, but I've just shared like deep topics about like shit about my life. Or like, even taking morphine or codeine or anything like that, you're actually taking something that mimics endorphins. And so you should be really getting that feeling after a run. you go for a significant run, you come home, you're on the couch, you're chilled out, you're just like, it's like you're on a cloud.
Yeah.
And morphine is just like 10 times that or 100 times that, So all these systems and processes, they exist in our body for a reason. They motivate us to do things. But it's like when you're taking those substances and you've done that for 40 years, how much rewiring does it take to find fulfillment in those things, where you're like, oh yeah, I'll go for a run, but then what? I feel like this is it.
Yeah.
Bro, I could just,
Yeah.
and I feel 10 times better than this. And I guess that's the lure, is that once you've done it and you've done it for a long time, it's very hard to look away from.
Yeah, it is, bro. And for me, I take my hat off to the older generation for doing all of that. But I guess for me, I was using that as a reference.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, like I was using, I'd have these conversations with the older brothers and think to myself, man, I don't want to end, you know what I mean? Like awesome that they're doing it, but they're in a pretty dark situation. And not all of them, but you know what I mean? It's like the older you get, the more, people fade away and if you're making irrational decisions and stuff, it's, it's a very lonely world.
That's right. Yeah, I've said to a few people, like, at some point you forget about it, but at some point you're going to be the oldest person in your family.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had kids, or your siblings haven't had kids, and you aren't staying close with family, and you haven't created something under you that if you've not even just having kids, but maintaining the relationships with them, raising them well, making sure that, because by the time your kids leave home, how they treat you is going to be a reflection of how you parented them.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you want people in your life that are family when you're old, you really need to make sure you do have children, and that you treat them well, and you do all that stuff. If you've spent a life mistreating your children and having, being on drugs and everything like that, it's going to amplify that loneliness, like you say, of you will feel very alone, unless you've got good, friends and support and things around you. But yeah, it all contributes. It's just a part of the bigger picture.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
So without going into any specifics, if there was any violence in your upbringing, how did that shape your worldview? And if so, how have you worked to heal from those experiences? Yeah,
for sure. There was definitely violence in my upbringing. I realized obviously I was violent, and that was a big thing from being a young kid. I would, act out in tantrums, chuck rocks through windows, all that type of stuff. And, I've definitely experienced violence growing up as well, and I won't go into specific situations, but it definitely there was a significant event when I was younger that really molded my way of thinking. It really solidified pulling the finger at the world and going, fuck everyone, and it really drove me to inflict that onto other people. Yeah. So I have been using violence as a drug for a lot of my life. I've used that as a way of a release. It's made me what I thought feel good, but not at all. But at the time it was like, yeah, fuck, and for me, I think the really sad part about it when I now look back at it is I actually enjoyed being beaten. I actually would inflict like situations to provoke. Like I'd try to take on too many guys and literally a lot of the time I wouldn't even fight back. Right. I'd nearly have my hands behind my back and just take the bashing because that's what I felt that I was worth. Man, right. Yeah, and it was like it's taken me to some pretty dark places, and like my mum having to pull over and see me in town being beaten and having to intervene, just putting my family and putting people that I love in the most effed up situation. So violence has been a huge part of my life in the past. I've done a lot of work around it to figure out where it's come from and how to kind of execute a plan of stopping it. But it's been a huge thing, probably more predominantly than drugs. Right. Violence has been a big thing. I've always been gravitated towards it. I've always almost enjoyed that type of pain. No, like it wasn't that I enjoyed it, but it was that psychological, like the shit in my head kind of messing with me, you know, like it gave me a buzz, you know, like even if you hurt yourself, it's not like a necessarily good feeling, but it makes you feel alive.
Yeah, it's adrenaline and everything that comes with it.
Yeah, and I got addicted to that adrenaline, and it took me to some really dark places. So it's definitely affected me, bro. Yeah.
That's heavy, man. I'm sorry that you obviously had that perspective at that time, because it's generally in life we try and stay away from discomfort or situations that could harm us, and to get enjoyment out of it shows that something's mixed up. You know? I can't imagine what that would feel like, but I'm sure it must have been really tough. And it caused a lot of issues as well with, you know, friends, you know, people that I kind of grew up with and stuff like that, because I guess I was the wild card, and I always have been, and people that know me that watch this will, you know, they'll agree. I was that guy, you know. I was always trying to prove a point, bro. I was always trying to be this tough guy, you know, and, you know, it wasn't until I really started to do the inner work, look in the mirror, realize I'm a little white ginger boy, you know what I mean? Like I'm not what I thought that I was this gangster, and there was all these things, you know, you listen to Eminem and Tupac, and they were the influences for me, you know, those were the people that I looked up to, and then, you know, and then you meet people in the foster homes and stuff that were almost like them, and you become a part of that, you know, a part of that crew, or you know, whatever you want to call it, whatever society labels it, you know, and it's not until I started to really realize that I'm actually quite a soft person, bro. I'm not this angry, you know. The reality of it, I was hurt, bro. I was, you know, I was in so much pain and suffering internally that a lot of people just saw me as this psycho little ginger, you know, but there was a lot more to the story. And that's why, you know, I jump on opportunities like this, because, you know, it not just gives people clarity, but it also helps me improve to hopefully break generational curses, and to hopefully you know, improve the newer generation to realize that, you know, it's okay to struggle, but we need to turn that struggle into something positive. You know. I mean, you've with the place where you came from, you were it's like you were idolizing people that were also had probably come from these people that you were idolizing. A lot of people who are drawn into that gangster culture and then end up coming to the top of it have come from hard places as well, you know. And I don't know if this is a positive or a negative thing to say, but it's like to me, the most gangster people are the ones that actually do the gangster shit. And it sounds to me like you actually did. You were tough, like, you know what I mean? Like, you were, because you did the thing. You were a doer. A lot of people act that way, but it sounds like you were actually willing to get stuck in and do stuff. But I think our perspective on that when we're young is shaped by our environment and what we've come from and things. And for you were trying to succeed as best you could. And I think too, your identity was shaped around the wild card too. It sounds like as well. You say if there's people watching this that will know that about you, it's like you probably, was there a degree of you that thrived on or liked the fact that you were, that was not necessarily your label, but people saw you that way? It was almost, was it unique?
Gave me attention, bro. It gave me, you know, I was acknowledged for something.
That's
it
right.
wasn't a positive, but, and that's the thing. Like, obviously there was a lot more crazy wild cards out there than me, and those wild cards didn't like me, because obviously I was, I was, a pussy, or I wasn't hard enough, or whatever that may be. But I think the more kind of going inwards and healing this pain and this stuff, I've realized that the real gangster stuff is doing what we're doing right now, bro. You know, at the end of the day, you can have all the material shit, you can externally, but if you're not feeling good within yourself and you're not heading in that right direction, you know, it's you're only kidding yourself at the end. I was only kidding myself at the end of the day, and that's my point, bro, is the whole wild card thing. It can really be turned into something really positive, you know.
Oh, absolutely. You've got so much potential to do good with that, you know. And the negative aspects of that wildcard stuff, all those boys, no matter how, the biggest and baddest of them, it's this hyper competitive place.
Yeah.
Where it's all about being the bigger, badder wildcard.
Yeah.
And in a space like this, there's no competition. We're all just trying to help each other, and we're all trying to grow. I had someone the other day say to me that they admired what I was doing because I wasn't someone who was judgmental or turned my nose up at certain people or anything like that. And I said, I said, thank you for seeing that, and that I hope that it'll stay that way, that people will see that and that they won't, what did I say? Because I will be continuing to work with people who have had, trouble passing things. And I said something and she was like, I see you as I was worried that it would lead to people thinking I was competitive, because I'm not. I don't feel competitive. And she was like, no, I see you as a winner who wants others to win.
Yeah, for sure.
And
right.
I was like, I heard that and I was like, yes. Like I wouldn't like to describe myself as a winner, but I'm definitely a doer. Like I make things happen, but I do want others to win.
Yeah, man.
I'm not competitive in that way. Like I like to see others succeed, and I wouldn't care if I push someone up past me. In that sense, it's for me, it's about helping others. And even when I went into business and everything like that, I always wanted to take on business partners and things, because together you can do so much more.
Yeah.
But then often other people don't have that same view. And and that's the problem. Is that I a lot of times ended up with people that either got stabbed in the back in some form or whatever. And there's still a lot of other people out there that are so competitive, even when you're trying to do good, and that's hard to be around because you just don't know whether people have those good intentions or not. But I agree with you. I think this is the real gangster shit.
Yeah, man.
Getting shit done, but helping others achieve
100%, bro. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did your time in prison impact your mental health and outlook on life? Were there any turning points during this period that kind of contributed to your path to recovery?
Yeah, 100%. I was only in there for short amount of time. I wasn't in there for long at all. But in the short amount of time that I was in there, I realized that the worst prison I can possibly be in is my mind.
Yep.
So I'm now in the physical prison, but living up here, alone, feeling like no one cares, blah, 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 100 radio stations playing at the same time. That's the worst place I've ever been, is upstairs, bro. So being in there, being around vulnerable brothers and being around that stuff, it felt like, and I've said it in previous interviews, it felt like I was having a spiritual awakening in the prison. I started to really realize that labels are chucked around all the time, but it's not until you actually get into something like prison and you sit with these people and you start to realize and see them for what they are, which is human, it starts to make sense, bro, and it starts to it's not, these people may have done some horrendous stuff and they might have some horrendous stuff hanging over them, and some stuff, is out of control and out the gate. But a lot of the time, a lot of these brothers are in there for petty stuff, for stuff that is basically just screaming out for help. I need help, doing all this ridiculous stuff. So, it helped me build a bigger understanding for humanity, bro, and how broken our system is, because the reality of it is, I feel a lot of the time people go to prison for the wrong reasons, whereas I feel if they were put into somewhere that can help them regulate their emotions, give them a, maybe a bit of a lockdown, but not too severe, whereas you've got barbed wire around, just some comfort, some unconditional love. It could make a massive difference compared to putting them into a concrete cell,
it's when you think about the horrendous things that some people have done, and then you think about the fact that they maybe had no concept of emotional regulation, and then that you throw substance use in the mix, like we said with meth taking people's soul, I'm sure that's just a recipe for horrendous things. You think if you haven't been up, you've been up for a week and you were never taught how to regulate your emotions as a kid, and you just found out your missus has cheated on you. How do you cope with that? And what do you do? Or if you're so hard up for money and you've got a gang breathing down your neck and you've just been billed $20K, why don't you go kick the door in the gas station? And, like there's so many people, there's crimes that are, well thought out from a clear head and a good education and a good upbringing that are horrific. That's quite different.
Yeah.
When you plan to do something like that. But when you do things out of desperation and a lack of education and substance use and everything else thrown in the mix, that person needs help.
Yeah.
And needed help a long time ago, And so, yeah, those are the people, man. And prison is full of them.
Yeah.
Prison is full of them.
Absolutely full of them, bro.
And like you say, those people still need a fence around them for a bit,
for sure, definitely.
Until they learn and they need to learn about the emotional regulation. They need to get off the substances, and they need a bit of downtime and a punitive measure as well in there. But they do need that unconditional love.
Yeah.
And where the fuck is that in the prison system?
Nah,
it's just not there. It's a psychologist might be able to identify that they need it. How's that going to be provided?
Yeah, 100%.
And this is where I think groups like the Speed Freaks is good, because you can go through Odyssey, you can go through a live-in rehabilitative program, but then when you come out, where is your sense of community? Because you're going back into the community that you were in. Where are the new people that you're going to, kind of associate with? And that's where I think, like, this is a group that I do running and things with. They provide an option where you get a sense of achievement. You can build that sense of achievement through physical exercise, and everyone's moving towards the same goal, but you're also dealing with people that are in a similar situation to you. And I think that is such a crucial thing to have that kind of thing available to people. But if there could be something like that, an initiative that was available for, and I know there's pathways and things like that, and they're more one-on-one and you have a mentor and that kind of stuff. But it's like, if it was part of the system to allow people that unconditional love and sense of community, I guess, and achievement from the prison, from, like almost like an overlap from when they're in prison to coming out. I mean, the prison system, it's tough because the prison system needs to exist, but at the same time there needs to be more done, I think.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely. There's definitely a purpose served in there to some degree.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to have those kind of rehabilitation stuff dealt with as soon as possible. And like you say, look at the actual full picture rather than just the charges on the sheet as such, because there's a lot more to the story than that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of context. I think what it's going to come down to is people like you and me.
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
Because we understand, but the system's never going to be able to give. It'd be like expecting a baby to feel love from a machine.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not going to happen. You can't. It's going to take other people making the effort to bring these people through and bring them out the other side.
Yeah, fully agree, bro. And I've always kind of agreed, like, with that coming into this type of space and the advocacy and the mental health type of scene is the real changes in the community, brother. And that's what I see and that's what I feel, there's some amazing people out here, including yourself, that are doing the grassroots work, working with people, giving them a voice, giving them an opportunity to prove to themselves, because it's not just about proving it to others. For me, it was just proving it to me, bro. It was me versus me.
Yeah, that's right.
It was, like, as
it's
much
all it ever is, really.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I came here alone, and I'll leave here alone. And I don't know, it's a dark phrase, but that's the reality. Like, for me, when I went into prison and that, all the friends and all the associates, I didn't hear from them, bro. You know what I mean? The only people I heard from was my family. Was
Tell me about it. The people I thought I'd hear from.
Nah.
And then I heard from people I never thought I'd hear from.
Yeah.
You get a letter in the mail or someone's rung and they say so and so wants to put his number on. You're like, hey.
Yeah.
What? Who? I haven't heard from them in ages, Yeah, there's nothing like prison to show you who matters, eh?
Yeah, 100%, man. Definitely. Yeah.
Cool. So what, in terms of kind of what you're doing with yourself now, what motivated you to pursue a chefing apprenticeship, and how has that journey been for you so far?
Yeah, so it actually ties into Odyssey House. So I went into Odyssey when I was 18 in 2012, and they ended up putting me in the kitchen. So they got me to cook food for the residents and stuff like that. And that's where I really built the fire to want to be a chef. I loved it, bro. And obviously I was crazy in the head at that point. So there's some crazy shit that went on in that kitchen, man. Some angry shit, some Chef Ramsay type shit, you know. Like at one point we were cooking a bunch of pizzas, and I was just so fucked in the head, you know, just really not thinking straight. And I thought it'd be a good idea to just chuck the pizza bases on the ceiling, and we just made a mess. So there's one point I chucked cutlery all over the bloody place. It was, but it taught me a lot in the way of life skills, and gave me that drive. I love eating, bro, and to cook good food and to get that satisfying feeling of cooking something yum and people saying, oh, that's beautiful, you know. It's something that I felt that I didn't get young in school and stuff like that. Like my parents, like I say, you know, have done the best that they can with what they had, and they definitely gave me a lot of support and stuff. But it was cool to kind of be in that treatment centre, you know, by myself or with the other residents, but in my own kind of buzz. It just put me in a different world when I was in the kitchen. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Well, I recently started baking.
Yeah.
Which I never did. And you know, I never did because I didn't think to myself, I was like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in eating these things, but at the same time, like I didn't really think about doing it for other people or anything like that. But when I started doing it, I was like, well, this is a creative outlet for me, and I'm quite creative. I got a sense of achievement and satisfaction out of people enjoying it, like you say. You know, you're being assessed every time, really. You know, whether you like it or not, people try it, and you want to know what they think, and then they're like, "Bro, this is mean. This is awesome." And then the other thing was, it was a way more positive thing to do than manufacture drugs.
I know.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I realised too, I was like, fuck, I was quite good at that, you know, and I'm like, so I'm quite good at this. This is actually way more simple, to be honest.
Right. That's beautiful, man.
So I know what you're saying, and I think that you would have felt a sense of achievement, and it would have grown slowly, the sense of purpose. You're like, fuck, they actually like the food I'm making. Maybe I'm good at this. I want to, you know, I think one of the really important things for us in life is to have long-term goals, obviously, and to see them we need to slowly get there. We need to be slowly getting there. But also these short-term goals that we set could be something as simple as just seeing the enjoyment from someone eating something that you've made. Yeah, definitely. And you're like, that worked. You get that's the dopamine. That's the dopamine we need.
Yeah, bro.
It's for people to see. It's for us to see positive outcomes from what we try and achieve.
Yeah.
And when and again, there's a social aspect that comes with that too. People appreciate you for your ability to provide something, and the time and effort and energy that went into doing that. Plus, you start to feel valued for your knowledge too. You're not, you know, people. I get that with paragliding now. When I'm teaching people, I'm like, I realize that they really value my input, my ability to do it. But then I'm like, this is just normal for me now. You know, I've been doing this so long. I enjoy it. Yeah. So you how far through your apprenticeship are you?
I've got 3 modules to go. So hopefully all going well, I'll be fully qualified by January, February.
Nice.
Yeah, it could be a little bit later. I haven't got I'm not being too hard on myself. Like it's but I'm getting there.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And then from then you can be a chef anywhere?
Yeah, I can do it really opens up the door for me, bro. I really want to help young fellas that are struggling like myself, you know, and give back in that area as well. Teach them how to cook, teach them skills and stuff that, you know, I didn't necessarily know back then, and hopefully put them on a path of possible, you know, employment and you know, stuff like that. So yeah.
Are there opportunities for community-based or community-orientated projects that you could
potentially, yeah, definitely. Like I know a few really good people up where I am in the community that are doing some awesome stuff with kitchens, accessible and stuff. So I'd say it'll all line up, bro. It always does if you do the right things. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty positive about it. I don't want to be stuck in the rat race of, like working a 9 to 5 job. For me, it's this kind of stuff was only ever temporary, and even through all the pain and the darkness and the struggling, it's temporary. Unless you aren't going to change it, then it's going to stay the same. But if you start doing things different, you're going to get different results.
That's right. I think there'd be a huge percentage of entrepreneur-orientated people that are ADHD.
Yeah,
like massive. I remember I saw it was like an event organised by this dude who does marketing and things online, and he's really, really good at what he does. But it was 5,000 people there in this massive hall, and he's like, to me, he runs down into the crowd and he's like, put your hand up if you have ADHD or show signs of ADHD type behaviour, and like literally 95% of the crowd puts their hand up, and he's like, my people, and he's an entrepreneur, and he's there. All the people attracted to him are that too. And I think the 9 to 5 just doesn't work for us.
Nah, man.
Never did for me.
Nah.
Never did. Like, I like the army, don't get me wrong, but I also wanted to be able to choose what I did with my time.
Yeah.
Other than that, every other job that I've had, I've been late or, not motivated or haven't been on task because I just can't get excited about it.
Yeah.
I just can't. And I need the flexibility. I need to have the option to chop and change and get things done my way, or at least be more in control of what's going on.
Yeah.
I could imagine maybe if I'd gone into the army as an officer, or if I'd stayed at jobs long enough to get to the point where I had a real serious role of responsibility, I might be okay. But getting there for me, it's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, no, I understand that, bro, and that's the thing with it. I think for me, it's a stepping stone. I'm grateful for the job I have. They've given me, massive opportunities. I've done some epic stuff, and I'll continue to work there and do what I got to do. But it's setting those goals and having those things in place to really reinforce your worth as well.
Yeah, that's
right.
I
think that entrepreneurship and that hustling, grinding to be, for me, to be the best version of myself and provide for my fiance and our dog, as lolly-dally as it sounds, but just provide for and for my family and my friends and stuff. Like you say, bringing your peers up as well is a really important thing, and just showing people, you can actually do anything you put your mind to. There's no way, bro, back in 2012 that I thought I'd be where I'm at today. No fucking way in hell. I've honestly didn't think I was going to make it out alive, with the mindset I was in and the attempts and stuff like that. It was a dark place, but it just shows, bro, that little bit of inner energy to head in the right direction, and the support around you is important as well. It's vital, bro. It's you are who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. Yep. Full credit to you, man, for getting through that time. I think that's it's probably would you say it's the hardest work you've ever done?
100%, bro. It's not for the faint-hearted either.
No.
It takes a lot of sacrifice and really, realigning the words and what I'm feeling with my legs, and then making sure that I'm turning up, bro, and I'm doing what I can, you know. And, as long as I can do that day by day, I'm still going to fuck up and make mistakes, bro. I'm still going to be a wanker sometimes, you know what I mean? And, and that's the thing. It's just really actually having that realization that, I'm being a dick. And I have to constantly remind myself, because I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, you give up the substances and stuff like that, but we're still left with a whole bunch of fucking shit, and it can be more overwhelming than when you're on the stuff, because you're now left with me, like I'm left with myself and everything that's happened.
Once those cheat codes are off, you've still got to play the game, eh?
Yeah, bro, yeah.
And it's like people who go on antidepressants, right? They often, it makes life better for a long time. But if they ever want to come off, they still have to start facing the emotions they haven't been facing that whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And so you think to yourself, well, that's fine, I'll do that at a later date, and it has its merits at times where, and I'm not a doctor or a psychologist yet, so I can't really talk too deeply on this topic and feel confident that my opinion is close to being what's accepted. But I think, like, at a time where, say, you had a loss in the family or something quite significant in your life, and antidepressants were needed to get you through that period, that's important. It's important to have them there and do that if that's going to save your life or potentially reduce harm in terms of like keeping your relationship or anything like that. But I think that you are still not processing what you need to process in that time. And when you're on substances, even self-medicated, you're not processing anything.
No.
You're forcing yourself to feel better.
Yeah.
Or worse, depending on what stage of the cycle you're in.
Yeah.
But the when you come off, like you say, you're left with, okay, well, this is what was underneath all that, and I've got to really start working through this now. I've got to start putting my toys away. I've got to start like organising everything. I've got to start like lighting things up, and I've got to work out what works in this new world now, because I didn't used to have to deal with these people or these things. I didn't have to hold a job. All the stuff that was functional on substances is not the same now. And yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I think too, the age matters too. Like I didn't really start taking ownership of my shit until early last year. I'm 38 on Sunday. So like for me, don't get me wrong, I've had lots of pivotal moments in my life where things changed and I made significant changes and decisions that were different. But yeah, I didn't own my behavior or didn't take responsibility for a lot of things that I really needed to take responsibility for until just a couple of years ago. And that is too late. If you ask me, it's the way it had to happen.
Yeah.
I think, and I wouldn't change anything because I'm so proud of where I'm at now and what's going on for me. And I wouldn't change the traumatic shit that I've caused, because a lot of it is. Like I said to you, I had a very non-violent upbringing. I didn't have drug use in my family or anything like that. I chose to kind of get involved with everything I got involved with, but through all that self-inflicted trauma, I've been able to understand myself so much better than I think a lot of people get the chance to. Because, I almost feel sorry for people who don't suffer with some significant trauma, in that if they don't get the chance to reflect on themselves, it doesn't mean it's not coming. For a lot of people, the trauma comes later in life. But for you and me, although we've had quite different pathways, the level of understanding that we have of ourselves is much deeper because of what we've been through,
Yeah.
Your engagement to your your engagement to your engagement to your partner is obviously a very significant milestone. How has this relationship with your partner supported your journey towards healing and stability?
Massively, bro. Like she's really held me accountable a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and for me, it's I've been in a lot of toxic relationships in the past because of the way I was feeling and the way I viewed the world. It's like you attract what you feel and stuff like that. And I guess the real funny thing is, you go into treatment, what do they tell you? Like, one of the main things they tell you is not to get into a relationship in treatment. Cole and I met in treatment,
right?
And that
were you both in the same treatment?
both in St. Mark's, bro.
Right.
That's where we met, and obviously, the counsellors and stuff like that weren't too impressed with it. Some of them actually weren't like too, trying to tell us what to do and all that type of stuff. At the beginning, bro, like, she saw a side of me in treatment that I was this courageous, wanting change, and once we got out of treatment, she started to see the more fuckness. And I'm just so grateful for her.
Yeah.
For sticking with me, mate. You know what I mean? Because I'm not an easy person to I struggle to live with myself sometimes, and it's been there's been a lot of hardships, bro. There's been a lot of truth. There's been a lot of stuff from both of our pasts. We've both had very different upbringings, but similar outcomes. Yep. Obviously, ending up at St. Mark's being one of them.
Yep.
She, she's very resilient, bro, and she's got a massive story, and it's just I'm really excited. I never thought I'd get married or anything like that, bro. You know what I mean? And here we are engaged. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man, and I'm truly grateful for it.
It's very cool. I can empathise with that, and that I'm not easy to be with either. You know, I often was quite scattered, and especially because my last significant long-term relationship was before I was diagnosed. But I used to frustrate the fuck out of her. Honestly, she just couldn't understand me and how I thought and anything like that. And I, as much as there was a lot of bad stuff that happened in that relationship, she was really good balance for me in a lot of ways in terms of creating routine and having someone to think, oh yeah, you know, there's the other side of the coin where if I'm on my own doing all this shit, it's very likely that I can it's a runaway, you know, situation. Yeah. But when you have this other person pulling you back on track in certain ways, it can be so good for you.
Yeah,
like so good for you. And because you both met in a treatment centre, it's like you both understand your foundation too.
Yeah.
And your triggers, and you've probably had all the same education and everything around all sorts of things in life. I mean, like the lure of substance use isn't just, the teachings around the lure of substance use isn't just relevant to substances. It's actually relevant to lots of things in life.
Yeah.
You know, it's addiction in general, and addiction is just chasing pleasure to the point where it becomes negative for other things in your life. That's what addiction is by definition. It's when you continue to do something despite negative consequences.
Yeah.
And if you have that thorough understanding of that, and you're in a couple, it's a powerful thing. Yeah. Massively, especially considering you both need to be kept on track. You can spot each other's, like, hang on, you know, like if there was any deviation, I'm sure she'll notice.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely highlighted, bro. And at the early stages, there was, you know, a slight breakup, a slight breakdown at the beginning, which was, you know, I was, like I say, that was on me. I was just very insecure, bro. So insecure, you know what I mean? And what led, you know, what came with those insecurities was some really twisted things in my brain that I wanted to know about her. And, you know, it was just, it was not right.
No.
But because I just felt like such a piece of shit human being, I didn't believe that she liked me, bro. And I didn't believe that I was worth loving, and she's taught me that through, you know, her own story and what because she battles, you know, of course, you know, but she's showing me a lot around goals. Like she's actually published her own journal, like based off her own experience, with a bit of her story in it, and it's based around those guidelines of achieving goals. She's you know, she's been a homeowner in the past and stuff like that, and she's lost it to, you know, bad decisions, i.e., you know, addiction and stuff like that. And so for me, I never owned a house, bro. I'd be lucky to own it, you know, like I wasn't a material person as such, but it's definitely taught me a lot, especially around committing to work and purpose and all that type of stuff. She's definitely helped with a lot of that in my outlook.
Her journal, is it public? It's a public thing she's published?
Yeah, we haven't set up a website, but we've got a whole box of them at home. So like if anyone wanted to purchase one, just hit me up. For sure. Definitely.
I'll get your contact details at the end anyway, just for people that want to reach out, but it is something that's available.
Yeah, it's available, bro. It's locally published from where she's from, which makes it really special too. And it really goes into a lot of kind of outline and blueprint of how she's managed to get out of the darkness and come back to her light and stuff like that. You know, she's very passionate with tropical fish.
Right, cool.
That's her passion. So she does a lot of maintenance with fish tanks, and she's been doing one at a dry cleaners, quite a big tank with a whole different range of tropical fish. It's all beyond me, bro. Like all these temperature, like if I had a fish tank, it'd be a goldfish and it'd be dead. But it's amazing, bro, you know, to hear all that type of, because when you think about it, you stare at a fish tank full of beautiful fish, it's pretty therapeutic.
Oh, I know, mate. I know. I go into the pet shop, that's where I'm drawn. You know, go in there, and especially when they get the UV light in there and they light up in that, it's very cool. Yeah.
So we've got a few fish tanks at home, to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And she'll be keeping on top of them. They'll be clean.
Oh, yeah, bro. Yeah.
If I had a fish tank, man, it'd be filthy, and the fish would not survive. I can't even keep plants alive.
It'd be a week, A week would look alright.
They wouldn't be healthy, put it that way. Yeah. What advice would you give someone who is currently facing similar challenges to anything you've faced and feels like they can't turn their life around?
I try, like for me personally, I try and avoid, like even when I make videos and content, I try and avoid like giving advice. But one thing I would say is just believe in yourself, you know, and I know it's cliche and it's easy for me to say believe in myself because I am where I am at the moment, but it took me a long time to get here, bro. It took me a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, a lot of emotional shit to go down to get to where I'm at. And I just feel, you know, like I can never say that I understand, say, your journey because I haven't lived it, but I can understand the emotional, like the lack of emotional kind of regulation to even feel worthy of believing in myself and stuff like that. But if I do good things are going to happen. If I do negative shit, negative things are going to happen. So I guess the takeaway is if my old self is doing negative stuff, then I'm actively choosing to go down that negative path. Even if I am in the negative mind space and in a negative world and I start to do a little bit of good, it's going to wing me out slowly, bro. You know?
That's right.
You know, so that's, you know, just continue to learn to be your authentic self, which is a massive journey. and just believe in yourself. Really start to realize that no one's coming to save you. You know,
that's right.
There's people that are going to be waiting there for when you're ready to make those choices and decisions to better yourself. Because like you say, you know, like the prison and when you're in the real dark depths of hell, you could say here in this physical realm, you'll start to realize who truly cares, and normally it's the people that have cut you off and told you not to fucking contact them until you sort yourself out,
because they know how to set boundaries.
Exactly, bro. And that's the most important thing, is boundaries, because it actually draws the line in the sand and builds, you know, a way to them. They're saying, nah, fuck that, I've had enough.
I'm not enabling what you're doing either.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's today. I only really, I did a course on kind of the nature of reality online, and it sounds fucked up, but they talked about society and you know that we've chosen we're born into it, you and me, but like as a society, humans, we have decided to basically have a government. It's not the Wild West, you know. It's not just everyone out for themselves. We decide that we pay taxes and that we basically hand over some of our autonomy to a government, and the government employs police and everything to make sure that we all follow the rules, because otherwise society would be dangerous. It'd be fucking dangerous. I know. But we just take it for granted. We take it for granted that we are born into this environment. This is how it is. And what you realize is, you know, as a teenager we rebel. So we speed, we drink publicly, we smash shit, we blow up people's mailboxes. We do this antisocial stuff. And of course we get treated like we're antisocial. Yeah. And I remember when I used to sell drugs and had money from that, I would book hotels and I'd feel like a piece of shit in the elevator next to the people who actually had legitimate money. But I was the cause of that. You know, I chose that because for me, my identity was based around that. That was what I did. That's what I do. And if you're able to apply yourself and do good things, like you say, if you can contribute to society, then society will accept you. But if you don't, then they won't. No. And it's very hard to, if you come from a place where you were, you know, basically told as a child that you don't fit in or you're not like the rest of us. And I think that's where a lot of stuff has come from for me, because I felt like I was going to get in trouble anyway. So I'll just take the risk. Yeah,
fuck it, why not?
Why not? Yeah, what have I got to lose? Honestly, it's and normally it ends up, you when you get punished a certain amount of times, after a while, you're like, well, that's as bad as it gets. Yeah. Yeah. Does it get any worse?
You're conditioned to it.
You're conditioned to it. You're like, I can take that. I can deal with it. What's the punishment? How bad's it going to get? And then before you know it, you are you're on the wrong side of a gang, or you're going to prison. And then it's like, is that bad enough? Because sometimes it's not.
no. Let's just keep pushing it and pushing it.
Keep pushing before you know it, you're facing a life or death situation. And I guess that's the thing, isn't it? Like we need to discover our authentic self, but we need to contribute to the good in society if we want to be accepted in society. And it's just like you say, to start doing good things. If you can start doing good things and start seeing that, then the good people will accept you. And I hate to think about it as a needing acceptance from others, but we live in society. We need connection. As people, we need connection. If you want to be in a good relationship, you have to find a good person, generally. And a good person is up for definition. It's subjective. Everyone gets to decide what that is, the right person for you. But it's about making sure that you're safe, making sure that you're emotionally safe, making sure that you're physically safe, making sure that your needs are met. I think it's just important to do good things and just see where it leads.
Yeah, man, fully agree.
And like you say, you believe in yourself. You believe in yourself. You are capable of making whatever change you want to make.
Yeah.
No one's coming to save you. Like you say, you have to decide to make that change. And like you say, there are people waiting for you to do that. You don't even know where they are. You might know where some of them are, but there'll be people there that will, when they see you making positive steps, will reach out. I thought from doing this podcast I would get so much hate because of my old life. And the amount of hate I've got is actually far less than what I thought I would get. And the amount of support and the people reaching out and everything. And the hate I thought I would get would be people saying, oh, you're not this person, you're not that, don't pretend to be this and that. And this is who I am. As a genuine, I've never felt more myself than I do now. But the people that have the connections I've formed, the networking and things that have come about through me making that change and having that belief, even though I really did believe that hate was coming, was just unbelievable. It was the best thing I ever did, or one of the best things I ever did. So I completely agree with you. I think that believing in yourself is key. Just doing good things, whatever they look like.
Yeah, bro, definitely 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so looking back, or reflecting, what do you think were key factors that helped you overcome your past adversities?
I think the key factors, one of them being action. So actually starting to move in the right direction. Whether that was seeing a counsellor, whether that was swearing at the ocean or whatever that may have been, bro. Yep. Like for me, a lot of it come down to brief work, looking at that inner Danyon, that little boy, healing a lot of that stuff, investing money into myself, because the thing is, bro, I've been a taker a majority of my life, a manipulator, you could say, stuff like that. I was taking a lot, and when I started to head towards the healing part, I started to realize, well, I was paying money to get wasted. Am I going to pay money to get well, to start trying different coaching and trying different breathwork options and this and that? So I took that leap, and I've done a bit of work around that stuff, and it's helped me, and that's all been with action, bro. I think if I spend too much time in my head thinking about it, it's not going to happen. But if I commit to something and then someone holds me accountable, then it creates that change and continues to create that change. Accountability's a big one for me. So action and accountability. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's such a good insight. I think if you can pay to get wasted, can you pay to get well? And I know it's tough, because a lot of the time when you're paying to get wasted, if you're selling, it pays for itself sometimes. But if you're not selling, then it's kind of similar. I mean, you've got to pay. You're investing in yourself is key. And for a lot of people, I don't even think they'd know where to start. No, it's much easier to find drugs than it is to find ways to further yourself, because there's so many different ways you could do it. And who do you trust? That's right. Yeah. Are these people just gimmicks? Are they just trying to, copy bloody whatever? You know what I mean? Because, and that's the other thing as well, is feeling within your, who can you trust? You know what I mean? When you've come from a world of a lack of trust and being let down and stuff, it's hard. But I guess for me, it's been that soulful stuff. I can feel if, I can work someone out and under 10 seconds, what I mean? And the way of are these people genuine? You know what I mean? And the only reason I can do that is because I've been on the other side of spinning the yarn. And it's survival, bro. It's come from that old way of looking at things and life, and now it's serving me in a positive way. But I think it's just really, if you really feel something, or if you're watching something on social media, or you come into contact with someone and you're drawn to that energy, go with it. Don't let your anxiety, and don't let the a million voices, sometimes in my case, in your head kind of stop that connection. Go and reach out. Go and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
I think doing things that you've always done, you're going to get the same result.
Yep.
You know, if you do things differently, you'll get a different result. And
Yes.
taking those leaps of faith is
That's right.
vital, you know.
Yeah, it's about expanding that perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
And choosing to do the thing. If it feels right, you know, as long as I think for me it would be about always looking at, am I going to disadvantage, or you know, is the decision I'm about to make going to hurt anyone?
Yeah.
And as long as it's not, and you're not giving up too much for that thing, it's always worth exploring, eh?
Yeah, bro, definitely.
Always.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say about, you know, figuring someone out when you've been manipulative. You can spot manipulative people, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my take on it, is that I was for ages in terms of just not being honest and gaslighting and all that stuff. And now when I see people doing it, I'm like, fucking don't think I don't notice what you're doing, bro. Like, and it's you can see the patterns way before they even emerge. Sometimes you're like, wow.
You can feel it.
Yep.
Before they even talk.
Yeah, it might not even be being done to you. It might just be someone telling you a story about something someone else has done, and you're like, oh, I know what they're up to.
Yeah,
like it's a powerful thing. It's a skill, and it's especially when you've come from the methamphetamine world. I mean, how do you go out into the world after that and trust people when you've been
you're slivering with snakes, aren't you? It's you don't know, you know. One moment they're your best mate, next minute they're stealing from you and helping you look for it type shit. And
they genuinely are those two things.
Yeah,
you know, it's not like they genuinely are your best mate one minute, and then they genuinely are stealing from you the next. Yeah. That's what's fucked.
Yeah.
It's not like they were somewhere in the middle and they chose to, no, they were that, then they were that. And you're just like, what the hell? Like, and this is what happens when we're dealing with someone who does not have normal functioning brain chemistry. I mean, someone in psychosis, like meth psychosis, they talk about it as being completely indistinguishable from schizophrenia. You can't tell the difference. The person might as well be schizophrenic. And like full-blown schizophrenia and psychosis. So like they're going to think shit's going on that's not. They're going to treat, you know, that's when it's dangerous. It's dangerous because they could completely act out on whatever illusions they're seeing or feeling, or delusions they're seeing or feeling, and that's dangerous. It's such a dangerous place to be. It's dangerous for the person experiencing it, but also for the people around them.
Yeah. It's really dangerous, bro. And I've gone through some psychosis, and like I said, you know, the you know, at the end of my using days, it was full on. You know, it was demonic. It was, you know, some of the stuff my mum had to put up with. You know, because that's been a big factor as well, as my mum and my stepdad and all of that. You know, they haven't given up on me yet. They've cut me, but now, you know, they're actively in my life. You know, and my siblings and stuff. So it's awesome.
Basically, this last question is just about your future goals. So, what are your future goals, both personally and professionally, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Yeah, I think personally, bro, I just want to continue to see where my experience and what I've been through, kind of where it takes me. I advocate for men's mental health in general, but obviously I'm a man going through these experiences, and I'm just really passionate about hearing brothers' stories and where they're from. Like, I genuinely care, and I put that out in my content. Some people might think I'm full of shit, but it's not until they reach out to me and have a conversation with me and give me the benefit of the doubt, because I know what social media is like, you know, but I genuinely care, and I would much rather hear someone you know, reach out to me and hear their voice, them talking, even if it's for hours, then go to their funeral, bro, or hear that they've passed away. You know, so for me, it's just continuing to collaborate with brothers like yourself and kind of just build on the platform side of things, and do things in my community to help strengthen that. When it comes to professionally, like I said, you know, upskill on my chefing skills, and then hopefully in the future teach young brothers how to cook and do that type of stuff.
Cool. That sounds really positive. If anyone wants to get in touch with you regarding like any of the help that you offer, or to work with you, or just to get advice from you or anything like that, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably Instagram's the more active way of getting in contact with me, and it's just answers within. There's a Tree of Life logo. You can't really miss it. You type in answers, it'll probably come up straight away. But that's the best way.
I'll put your Instagram handle in the bottom of the description for the podcast so people can find you that way. But yeah, it's been awesome to have you on the show, man, and I really appreciate all your vulnerability and openness to discuss this stuff. I think it's a very, very powerful story, and I think there's a lot of people out there who'll be able to relate to the things that you've said. So I thank you again for coming on. It's been great.
Awesome, brother. My privilege. Yeah, it's been a privilege, bro. Man.
Cool.